Thank you very much for joining our clinic on the 3 habits of the most successful project managers in localization. And before we get started, here are just a few tips how to increase your experience, because I really would want you to get the most out of our time here together. So turn off everything that is operating in the background, including email, Facebook, Skype, iTunes, Slack, or any other social media notification or notification that you may have on, because that really distracts you from getting the most out of the little bit more than an hour that we have today. Also, silence your phone. Close your door if you're in an office. I know that some of you are gathered together, I think in the cafeteria or so, to watch this class as a group, and that's totally fine. But really make sure that you are focused on the screen and our interactions, because this is really like your time to discover new strategies and make a change in your personal and professional development, actually. And that's really what counts, right? So that we as people and professionals progress. So take this time and enjoy and interact as much as you can. So if you are in a cubicle, I know that many of you, that you are either in an open space, collaborative, co-working area, or a cubicle, then put on those big headsets, right? So those little big earphones. Don't just use the little like earbuds that nobody can see. Use the big muffins so that you signal to your environment that you do not want to be disturbed and you're in the middle of something. Be as obvious as you can. And if that's not enough, just put on a sign that is very obvious, like shh or whatever, or please don't disturb, whatever works for you and you have available. Here's some house rules for our time together. First one is there's a chat box. And one of the reasons why I'm checking whether you can hear me or see my screen is to make sure that you know where the chat box is and have interacted with me before this webinar starts. So if you haven't interacted with the chat box yet, there is one on the right, and you can I will ask you questions throughout the webinar, and you can either ask your questions here or interact and respond to my queries. There's going to be a question and answers at the end. So after we're done, I will look through all of your comments and make sure that I can respond to them. I will try to do that throughout the webinar as well, or this clinic as well. But at the end, that's when we go through most of those questions. Also, keep in mind that no question is ever dumb. So do not be afraid to ask a question. We're all here to learn, and I'm learning from your questions as well. So this is like a bi-directional learning experience. So thank you very much for your past participation and sharing your thoughts with me as well. And this is a judgment-free zone. So really, just we're all coming from different angles and with different perspectives. And so never, ever feel that you cannot ask a question because it may not be appropriate or not intelligent enough or whatever. That's so not the case. Team Lawless is always a judgment-free zone. At the very end of this clinic, I will share the entire slide deck with you, and I will share a download link with you that so you have all of the slides, but you need to wait until the very end to get that. So here's my question to you. Are you managing localization projects? And despite of doing your best, are you stuck with beating deadlines, killing fires, and fixing bad work, and that mostly of others? So try the chat box now. Give me a big yes if that's true. as I continue to talk, give me a big yes. And he said, I got Julio, welcome to my life. Alessandra, yes. Asta, yes. Maria, yes. Daniel, yes. Renko, yes. Daniela, yes, we are at the right place, right? So what I want to know now is, does this sound like you are managing translation and localization projects and need more time with friends and family, or anything else that is meaningful to you? That might be your hobby, your community, your volunteer work, whatever it is that's meaningful. And at work, you are getting those change requests that seem to come almost suddenly and out of nowhere. Quality issues that are actually preferential changes, and scope creep. So requests from clients, I want more services from you and more time off you, but nobody wants to pay for that. And I have a lot of yeses here as well. Thank you very much for participating and interacting with me. So you are in the right place, and because it seems, and what I'm hearing from you, and also what I've got from emails that I received from you before, that you currently manage localization projects and want to take control of your job, right? And feel in charge of creating your own space and make that job meaningful and fun and for you, but also an opportunity to continuously learn and develop as a professional. So, and therefore, I would assume that most of you are committed to eliminating that clutter that keeps you actually from thriving in your career and spending more time outside of the office. And so if some of you have your supervisors here or your managers here, they may not be too happy with hearing that I want you to spend more time out of the office, but they may not be happy yet, because what you will learn later on in this webinar is, when do clients actually want you the most, right? And they want you the most. They want you the most when you are on fire, right? And when you're on fire and fully energized, that's when you give your clients the best services, and then when you like you more. So if you're in the office all the time, stressed out and beating deadlines and overworked, you're not going to be on fire. You're not going to be the best person that you can be. And therefore, spending more time outside the office is as important as performing inside the office. So the question here is now, how do we engage our customers so that we can reduce our workload, partner for success, and spend more time on what matters most? And that's really what we're here to learn today. So here's what's happening, right? And I call this, how to kill the project manager, or the project manager death spiral. And those of you who have been at my webinar a few weeks ago on how to win test translations, I had a similar slide, and I called it like how to kill a client, and both is true, right? So that death spiral actually impacts both your relationship with your client, and therefore also your effectiveness and your well-being as a project manager. So you may face like more client demands, and they're usually reduction in rates for individual services or work rates. They are, increase in scope. They have more quality complaints and want more QA cycles, and whatever, right? So, and then that leads to you being less productive. You're making less money with, or your company makes less money with the services that you're providing. You're missing opportunities to provide more of your time to other people. So there's some real losses here in terms of revenue opportunities. And that then in turn puts a lot of pressure on operations. So that's when you find yourself fighting fires, fix bad work, beating deadlines, and so on. That's where you're all stressed, and you probably spend a lot of time in meetings that are unconstructive, and you're wondering, why am I sitting here? So if you ever have sat in a meeting that you felt was unproductive, then or you wondered why you're here, or the meeting was too long, just give me a big yes, and I will not call out your name here, but just give me a big yes so that I see that you know what I'm talking about. And then, because you're so stressed, you do not have the time to engage with your clients as much as you would like to, and that then in turn, now the death spiral begins, right? So your clients demand more, they complain more about quality and so on, which then again puts more stress on you, takes away some of the opportunities to make more money, to spend time on other activities, to invent stuff, to strategize, to plan, to train yourself, and so on. And because of that, you're getting stressed, and more stress results to more or less satisfied clients and less client engagement and so on. So again, give me in a chapter throughout, like if that feels like you, if there's any agreement, disagreement, any comment that you have that you would like to add, anything that I've missed that you want me to address, or how you feel, quite frankly, right? So what I've seen with most successful project managers is that they found a way to break that cycle, right? And that's what we're here today to discuss. What are the 3 habits that actually help you to break that cycle? And these insights come from 20 years of managing operations in translation and operations. So this is not coming from theory or from intellectual exercises. This is really based on 20 years of implementing training sessions, strategies, tools, techniques, but also observing the most successful project managers that I have worked with on both the client side and the vendor side. So my career started about almost exactly 20 years ago at a company called Blitz, and then it was called Blitz GlobalNet. And at the time, that was the largest provider of translation and localization services in the world, with about $100 million of revenue, I think, at the time. And this particular division that I was headhunted for was the Central and Eastern European division, which, as you can see from this slide, had lost millions of dollars over the previous 5 years. And here you only see 3 years, but it has lost money for 5 years and increasingly so. And I was the 10th managing director who would join the company in 5 years. So every half year they had a new managing director to help save the company. And that gives you a good idea of where the company was at the time, or that division was at the time. And they basically said to me, you know what, Andrew, you can do whatever you like. You can close it. You can move it from Sindelfinger, where it was back then, to Berlin. You can fire people. You can hire others. You can restructure it. Whatever you want to do, do it. And you have 18 months. So 18 months, I can do that. But I'm not the kind of person who drags things out. And you will see that later, what I mean, and how that what that means to you also, actually. So here are the 4 things that I did on my first day, right? So I trained project managers in customer service. To this day, the people that were on my team at the time, and many of them are in executive positions or managerial positions, and they're either buying services or they're selling services, and they all come back and said, Andrew, the one thing that you've really hammered into us is being customer oriented, and let's be honest, a lot of the vendors out there need that customer orientation, and I hear that especially from the people that I've worked with that are now on the buying side of the equation. The second thing I did, I shared and interpreted financial data to them. So how were we doing in terms of project profitability, direct cost, indirect cost, cash flow, how well we're paying our vendors, how fast we are collecting our money, the money ourselves, right? So some of you that follow me went to my LSP health meter. If you haven't done yet, you can go to my website at lawless.guide. There's a link to the LSP health meter, and you can put in some of the data that you do have and get some information of your financial performance. I do know that many of you here went there because you fed back to me what you've learned. And by the way, if you go there, this is all confidential. None of this data will be stored, shared with any of my team or myself. It's really just for you. But sharing and interpreting that financial data for project managers so that they make the decisions that help the company perform was very, very important. And then I gave them all the data that they needed in real time. So what are you know, so how well are you performing? Your service level agreements versus actual. How long does it take you to deliver to a client? How long does it take you to respond to an email on average? What's the revenue for your project? What's the profitability, et cetera, et cetera. And in addition to that, I empower the project managers to make decisions that help improve operations. Because when you think about it, I was the managing director for the entire unit, but my project managers spent more money every day than I did, right? Because over 50% of my spend, or 50% of my income rather, or the income of that unit at the time, company at the time, was going out to external translators and vendors. So that spending power that project managers have combined by far exceeded actually my own signing power, right? So the empowering project managers to make the right decision every day and every time they spend, and every time they award a translation or services contract to a vendor was very, very, very beneficial and helpful and instrumental to turning this company around in no time. And so what happened is that within a few weeks, actually, brand names like Porsche, Bosch, Oracle, Siemens, and others, they came back as customers. And those were companies that had already given us up. I remember we went to Bosch at the time, and I went there with my sales manager at the time, and so they buttered us up, right? Said, you're the best, you're great, we love you, and so on, but you are too expensive, so we need you to lower your rates. At that time, the rates were already so low that with every word that we translated, we actually lost money. And I was there to negotiate rates up. And long story short was they showed us the door and said, if you want to lower your rates, come back. Otherwise, we won't be doing business with you. And what happened with all the activities and habits that we enforce within the company is that they came back basically and said, you know what, we thought about it. We would like to honor the contract with the existing rates. And then I went back saying, no, I was actually here to increase rates. And we closed that contract then again, or extended that contract with higher rates. And the two things helped: your customer engagement and the habits that project managers had and showed every day to engage the client. And here's what happened. So in 1996, so I joined in 1997, and when by the middle of 1997, the company had already lost $500 million. Sorry, not 500 million, $500,000, and we managed to make the company profitable in the first year. It was a very, very small profit, but That's much better than losing $1 million, right? So, and then the next year we had like an 8.2% profitability, and from there it grew. Sorry. So, and here's the team that I work with. So I told you earlier that I still have, in contact with my original team. And, they're like, after 20 years, it's always good to see where they are. It's also nice to know that, they're still friends. So there's Marcus here, who is at SAP, and Barbara, who continued to work with me at the World Bank, also supported me with localization services provider called The Big Word, and then followed her own passion. Julian is very interesting here. She's operations manager at Matrix Communication in Germany, and the reason that her picture is square, because I'm friends with her on Facebook. Never realized that we never connected on LinkedIn. So, and I saw that yesterday, and so I just laid that picture over. Volker here, who is at HP, and Ariane, who was in marketing, or was the head of marketing for the Sugar Serum for a long time, and has now her own business. And so everybody's like, started out there, and a lot of the learnings that we had back then, the habits that we've developed, actually stayed with them for the rest of their careers, and led them to success. And I hope that today I can share that with you, so that you have, the same experience moving forward. And what you will discover in the session today is that successful project managers try to understand their clients and proactively reach out. They also organize, these pieces of information that they get when they ask the right questions of their clients into logical and digestible chunks, so that they organize their clients' thoughts. And that is the most important here ever. What they learn, the most successful project managers either do this, naturally, or they learn it somehow. They invest their energy and time wisely, right? So the way they manage their energy and their time, and how they conserve it and where they apply it, they have a very, very specific way of doing that. And I don't care what other methodologies and technologies and techniques you're going to learn, and I know there are other trainings out there on project management. At the end of the day is, how you invest your own energy and time for your clients and your own development to make things work. And we will cover that later on in about like 15 minutes. If you do not invest your time and energy wisely, you can use the best methodology, the best techniques out there in order to try to achieve results, but you will not. And I'll tell you in a moment why that is. So, but now let's pause a minute here and go to your chat box, and on a scale from 1 to 10, just give me a number. Like, how much would you like more time for professional development, friends and family, right? Do you need that at all, or no? And it will give me a good indication on where you are and how where I should put my focus in here in the next half hour. So just let me know, right? So on a scale from 1 to 10, how much would you like more time for professional development, friends and family? I have a 10 here, another 10. Alexandra, thank you. Maria, Daniela, all 10. Yes, that's all true for us. So thank you for sharing that. When you look at the customers that you serve, right, and where they are. So like China, for example. China's export constitutes about 30% of their GDP. US businesses make about $2.3 to $2.5 trillion in revenue abroad. Germany exports more than 1/3 of national output. And we also know that companies that export grow faster and are less likely to go out of business. And what all of these have in common, and by the way, every country has a similar story to tell, or most countries have a similar story to tell, right? There's Ireland, England, Brazil, Argentina, or whatever, you all have your own stories with similar data. And what your clients that are in these countries all have in common is that translation is either illegal or a customer requirement, or consumer requirement rather, right? So you either need to have your technical documents in the official language of the country in order to export and sell into that country, or your consumers and your potential customers want that information in their language in order either to operate that equipment that you sell or understand your marketing message. So you have a customer situation here where they must localize. They do not have the option to not translate or localize. Well, some do, right? So it's not quite true. So you may have what I call the G whiz who calls you up and says, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had our internal newsletter in 5 different languages? But that person doesn't really have a business need or a budget. But most of the time, the vast majority of customers that we serve must localize. They're also under time pressure, right? So you probably know that. How rare is it that a customer comes and says, you know what, whenever you can. It does happen, but most of the jobs are urgent and have a firm deadline. And they need help because most of the customers out there do not maintain their own translation operations. They may have some internal project managers or content managers that are responsible for making sure that the work is being done and taken care of, and communication is managed internally. And they may actually be somewhat hands-on, but they wouldn't talk to you if they could do this all by themselves. So they are talking to you because they think that you are the solution, or you are a possible solution. Now think about that for a moment, right? If you have a customer who does not have the option to not buy your service and is under severe time pressure, and they cannot do it by themselves, and they're talking to you because you are the solution. If you cannot sell to that client, you should not be in sales, right? And yet a lot of salespeople don't sell at that very moment. And why is that? People do not know what to do at this point, right? Because the question there is, how do I tell now my clients that I, in fact, am the best, right? How do I tell my clients that I'm the best? And without getting this response, like, I'm on a date and I'm bragging and I'm telling my date, how great I am, what a great guy I am, and what great car I drive, and so on, right? So, but how do I tell people that I'm the best and that I can help without being rejected? And that's where we get to the 3 habits of the most successful project managers in localization. So the first habit here is they understand first before taking action. And my analogy here is, if you go to a doctor and you wake up in the morning, you have a sore throat, your neck hurts, you have stiff neck, your muscles are aching, you can hardly move, you feel like a truck ran over you, and then you call your doctor, and the doctor says, or the nurse over there says, you know what, I have already like a full schedule today. I can squeeze you in maybe later this afternoon. So if you come at 4, that would be great. You might have to work for an hour, but come in. So you make it through the day. At 4 p.m. you go to the office, and you wait another hour and 15 minutes there before the doctor can see you, because the office is really full. And so you get into the doctor's office. Doctor is there, looks at you, and immediately says, like 5 seconds after he or she saw you, says, you know what, here's the prescription, go to the next pharmacy, get that, take 2 tablets, and then from then on, like 2 pills every morning, and you will feel better within the next 48 hours. So he or she hasn't even touched you or measured your temperature, measured your pulse, and whatever. Just looks at you, hands you a prescription. And how much do you trust that doctor's advice at this point? Most of us won't. But the doctor might know, for example, that there's, which was actually the case a few years back when I lived in Galway, Ireland, where the drinking water was contaminated with a bug, and tens of thousands of people had the same symptoms because of that. So, and they might already know, just based on your symptoms, what you explained, based on the 19 patients that came before them, that there is a bug in the water, and all the doctor wanted is to give you quick help, and didn't want to waste any more of your time with diagnosing you, because he or she already knew what you've had. Yet you don't feel that way. You feel, that was just like a short visit, and they really either don't know what they're talking about, or maybe they're just overworked and they just didn't care that much. So when we claim that doctors have good bedside manners, it really means that they ask the right questions. And in localization, there are only 4 questions that you need answers to that make your life easier, increase your revenue, make your clients happier. So these are: what are you receiving? What will we do with it? What will we give back? And what will the customer do with it? And every question, of course, has a subsection, right? So what are we receiving? You may want to ask, it's like, is it a Word file? Is it, what version? Will we also getting a terminology? Will we getting reference material, and so on? But remembering those 4 questions and have answers to, and detailed answers to all those 4 questions is very, very important before you actually go out and do anything on a client project, right? And that sounds very trivial, but I give an example here, right? This is an actual example of one of my clients who just selected a new vendor, and we just started with the project, and they were also in the situation where they had acquired a new business that now needed to be moved into that translation process with a new vendor. And so I just asked 5 questions, right? Actually, these are 4, because number 1 and number 2 are the same, which are almost verbatim the 4 questions. So I send an email to that buying company, and what will you be sending? What is the vendor expected to do? What are you expecting to receive back from the vendor? And what are you going to do with these files? And this is what happened. So the first email that I got back was, I've added so-and-so to the email list, and so-and-so from the development side in IT. And I also added this person to address the questions below. And there are 2 other people that were with me on the call that couldn't answer all the questions. So therefore I added also like another person, and so on. If you ever received any of this, just let me know. Give me a big yes in the chat box. Yes, I had those emails. Yes, I had this in clarity or lack of clarity. And then as we progressed, this is just a quarter of the email that I've actually received. And by the way, I just see that one of you guys here is part of that vendor that I work with. That's very exciting. So, but what you see is like you have like lots of people responding to to that email in different colors, and you get an entire screen, and it looks like a colorful picture even, right? And at the end, nobody knows anymore, which answers have been addressed, who's in charge, what answers still need to be found, and so on. So no matter how trivial those questions seem to you, more often than not, on the client side, that's you don't have all the answers, and the client is not very clear about their own processes, and that leads to then a lot of ad hoc requests and new requests and change requests and scope changes and so on, quality issues, because they may not have vetted the terminology with the right people and all of that. So asking those questions is very, very important. And if you don't ask those questions, you pay for it later. So I have actually, like, part of my training, here's like a website that I put together for my students at the University of Maryland, where it's a very simple website. We go through that and take this website apart. And when you look here, this is just a welcome screen, but there's a number of things that you see here. You have a picture, right? So is that picture appropriate? Is the woman culturally appropriate? Do we need to replace that picture? We have the button there on the left, the orange button. What happens when I translate that in expansion of text? Can I do that? We have text in there. Is that text embedded in the picture? So I need to get like the original, let's say, photo, for example, Photoshop file or Illustrator file, for example, or is that text overlaid? You have an opt-in box where somebody needs to put in their email address and their name. Where is that, right? So what software is behind that opt-in? How do I get access to it? I see social media on the lower right. I see social media links to log in. Do I need to change that for certain countries and so on? So there's a lot that needs to be clarified with those 4 questions. And if you ever take classes with me, you will become very familiar with this site. It's not a functional, well, it's a functional site, but it has no other purpose than to train localization project managers. So the second habit here is to organize information into logical and digestible chunks. And there are a number of tools, and I'm sure that some of you use that. But all the information you get, and remember that sometimes I call it like an Indian or Persian carpet or a colorful picture, that email that now has so many colors that it looks beautiful, but it's not the most appropriate format for managing projects. So you can use anything from like first, make sure that you know who's on the project, right? So who's on a project, who is a say, who has a vote, what are their roles, responsibilities, and then also, what are the titles, where they sit, what are the location, and so on. You may want to manage a content inventory. First things that my students do at University of Maryland is to keep an inventory and really provide clarity on where the needs localization or not, right? And in what languages. You may want to do a work breakdown structure where you clear kind of these are the chunks of work that needs to be done. These are the subtasks, who owns the tasks, who's in a supportive or resource function, how much time, what's the duration going to be. You, depending on the complexity of your project, you may want to use a high-level plan. You may want to use a communication plan that you said with your very complex project, that you're very clear who are you going to communicate with, for what reason, and what channels, and what the timing and the frequency is, and so on. And if it's just like one file of 1,000 words, then that would be overkill. But you have an entire complex website with videos and opt-in offers and forms and a graphic work and so on, that's a totally different story. So you may want to work on a workflow, right? And put a workflow together so that you know where things are. And this is like a workflow that is technology driven. You may have a workflow that has roles, responsibilities. But use swim lanes, for example, so that everybody knows. When I'm a reviewer, that's what I need to do. If you talk to an IT person, you need to tell them what step will be done in what tool. Use a swim lane. And very important, service level agreements. So you may want to have service level agreements that really define. It's like, okay, what kind of level of service do you want to have in your time zone, outside the time zone? How do you want me to cover holidays, illnesses? What are your expectations in terms of acknowledging emails, quoting projects, and so on? And then be very clear, have a covenant with your customers on what how you will operate with them. And a lot of Project managers do not have that in place, and only when you're on the same boat, then you can perform. You may use action communication plans, to-do list minutes, and so on, like something like that. So whatever tool you like. And I don't mind how many tools you use and what's appropriate for you and what you work best with, as long as you use some tools that work for you. The most important thing that I'm concerned about is how you invest your energy and time wisely in applying those tools and communicating with your clients. So yeah, there are 4 ways you can spend your time, right? So you can we know from Stephen Covey that you can categorize your time in important tasks and not important tasks, and urgent and not urgent tasks. And in the urgent tasks, you have like the beating deadlines, the fighting fires, fixing bad work, and so on. And the not urgent tasks, you have the planning ahead, building relationships, improve your skills, and so on. Not urgent, not important but urgent would be interruptions, some phone calls, emails, reports, mailings. And then in the not important and not urgent, you have trivia, water coolers, checking your Facebook, gossiping in the office, and whatever. So my question to you now is, if you had a choice, right? If you could pick a quadrant, where would you want to spend most of your time? Put it in the chat box, right? Give me a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So put it in the chat box and tell me, would you rather want to work in quadrant number 1 and beat deadlines? And you can type it in here while I'm talking, so don't wait for me. You can read faster than I can speak. I'm just talking to give you time to respond, right? Beating deadlines, fighting fires, number 1. With interruption, phone calls, emails, and reports, meetings, and so on, in number 3. In number 4, trivia, gossiping, social media, water coolers, or in the important not urgent tasks, which is the planning ahead, building relationship, improving your skills, exploring opportunities. I have number 2 from Asta, Julia number 2, Leva number 2, Alessandra number 2, Daniela number 2, Yogita number 2. Exactly. And that's what most people say, right? Most people want to spend the majority of their time in quadrant number 2. And that's the infamous quadrant number 2 conversation I always have with people when I start out working with them. But here's what's happened. What actually happens is most people spend their time in quadrant number 1 and number 3. Give me a big yes if that's true for you as well, right? 1 and 3. Just give me a big yes. I'm watching you, so keep on interacting. You're doing well. And sometime you spend in your trivia and water cooler. Said yes, a lot of yes here. Good, thank you. So I got it. The good news is that you're not alone, and there's a way to solve this, right? So we have this. So what happens is that most of us spend the time in quadrant number 1 and some in quadrant number 3, and then the remaining time, 5 or 10% of the time, in quadrant number 4, which is the most productive, least rewarding, or personally rewarding quadrant, right? But why do project managers do that, right? Not because we are lazy or we don't care. To the contrary, we need time to decompress, and we cannot beat deadlines and fighting fires and fix bad works and be on fire all the time and run around all the time without needing some decompression. And that's that axis of non-rewards here, that you spend most of your time with urgent and important tasks, and the rest with something that is not rewarding, because you need time to decompress. I need time to decompress. And that's what I said earlier. Finding the time outside the office and decompress with something that's more meaningful than office gossip or some of the social media or some of the water cooler conversation is so important to a project manager's ability to perform. And so you already told me that that's like you. And the good news is that, change is going to come, right? So you can get control of that. And so here's what the habit number 3, what the most successful project managers do. First of all, they're very clear on what quadrant they want to spend most of the time on, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and they keep an inventory, and they're honest with themselves, right? So when I start working out, doing those with teams, doing these exercises, the first thing that I look at, have they actually logged the time they went to the bathroom, or just went to go grab a coffee? And the first joke I always make after analyzing those sheets is, so-and-so apparently never eats and never goes to the bathroom during the day, right? Because, people are not honest with themselves, sometimes because they're also afraid that other people see what they're doing. But these sheets are really for yourself, and the more honest you are with yourself, the better. And that then helps you over time with some of the advice and techniques that I'm going to share with you in a moment also, you can make. And they're very clear on daily interruptions and who interrupts them, for what purposes, for how long, and then analyze, how to avoid those interruptions throughout the day. So, and these are all technical things. But I said earlier in the beginning, it's like, in addition to managing time, successful project managers also craft their perfect job by leveraging the natural action modes. They don't blame the employers, they don't blame the client. They understand that they need to take ownership of their own job and their destiny. It's their lives. It's not their employers' lives. It's their well-being. It's not their employer's well-being. It's their professional development. It's not their not anybody else's professional or personal development. It's their time and their responsibility. And they are very clear on the tasks that they're doing. So they really look at, what am I good at and what am I not good at? And what do I enjoy and what do I not enjoy? So, for example, and that's, take me as an example, so because I do not take anybody else here, but if you take me as an example, what I'm not good at and I'm totally not enjoying is checking and approving vendor invoices or filling in expense reports, right? Hate it with a passion, and I'm not good at it. I'm just like this, working with these different receipts and keeping that in an orderly structure, not my thing. And on the other hand, analyzing XML files, I love doing this. I'm not good at it, right? Because I'm not good enough at XML to actually analyze files as well as, for example, a localization engineer. I understand enough to see like the overall high-level issues, right? But I'm not good enough to go back to a client and advise them on how to structure their XML files better for localization, for example. What I'm really good at, is developing and monitoring schedules, work plans, project statuses, and so on. But I don't particularly enjoy it, right? I do it, and I'm good at it, and people look at me for advice how to do it better even, but I'm not enjoying it. What I do enjoy is engaging and educating clients, being out there with clients, talking to them, brainstorming with them, making teams better, working with individuals to get them from being good to great. That's really, I thrive on that. I can do that 18 hours a day, and it never ever exhausts me. So I'm good at it, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy it a lot. The thing is, those jobs need to be done anyway. So I have to do things that I'm not good at and I don't enjoy, because if I don't fill in my expense report, I'm not getting reimbursed, right? If I'm in a managerial position, I may have a system to do that, but even then, I need to make a decision if that's the best use of people's times, and so on. I also see, so analyzing XML files, I do not always have a localization engineer with me when I need him or her. So I need to do it myself. All right. Engaging, educating new clients. I would like to do that more often than I can, but it doesn't always happen that way. So developing monitor schedules, work plans, I gotta do that. But what's also important, as I build my team, I need to look at, what is it, how do I need to complement my team so that we perform? Just imagine I had a team of people that are all totally happy and great going out and talking and educating clients, and nobody would take care of the schedules and work plans, and nobody would take care about the billing and paying and so on. The company would go down, right? So when it comes to habits and as you build your teams, make sure that you have complementary skills. The best project managers that I know are very clear on what they're enjoying, what energizes them, and where they need to be complemented. If you're a project manager and you have a project assistant and project coordinator, that's key. For example, here, like what I will naturally do is I will find shortcuts, promote alternatives, fix things that break, use tools well, try random approaches, ask for specifics, take on challenges. And that's what I should be doing as a consultant and coach, right? That's my job, and that's how I help. But on the other hand, there are a few things that will need extra effort for me, like sticking with the step-by-step procedures, to conform to certain rules and processes, use lousy equipment. I have no patience for example, for copying machines that do not work, present information without props or photos, stick closely to the script, read all the fine print. Hate reading fine print, right? I want specifics, but reading the fine print myself, I do not like that at all. And if I need to hesitate and wait for things to happen, makes me very, very nervous. But then again, it's like if I'm in my team, I need people that can stick to a script, right? If you need to test the functional integrity of a website, a localized website, you need people that thrive on sticking by step-by-step procedures and finding things. You need people. You need people in your office that read all the fine print before you sign your contract, and you need people around you that sometimes say, "You know what, Andrew? Hold on, just back off. Like hold on a second and think this through, right, before you move into action." So I'm not good at it, but I want people who will complement me there. And that's what I'm building with the team, so that I can focus on what I will naturally do and will give me energy. Because when you work up against your grain, you're not only unhappy, but also unproductive. And you waste your time on things that require too much energy. For example, my consulting method, right? Because of my strength, my consulting method is I brainstorm the problem, I review the data that I can get from the client, financial data and so on. Then I look at the strength and durability of their operations or staff or processes, and then I develop alternatives. And that's a very good, very effective way of helping people and organizations, localization services providers in particular, but also localization departments, to become great. If I work against that, I for some reason never have enough time, right? So here's like examples that are not my method. Brainstorm the problem, then see how the project fits into this overall system of the organization, for example, then check strength and durability, and then to review the data. Or I could review the data, then see how that project fits into the system, then see how I or everybody else need to adjust to all the changes that we need to make to fit into the system and to get us the data, and then visualize the solution. I could also start with brainstorming the problem, check strength and durability then of organization. Then summarize the bottom line. So what's happening? What's the bottom line? What do I want to achieve? And then develop alternatives. And all three approaches are absolutely valid approaches. No one is better than the other, right? No one is better than the other. All three are totally valid consulting approaches, absolutely effective ways of solving a problem and finding a solution and then implementing it. But they're not my way of doing things. And if you, particularly the one in the middle, right, which is review data and then try to fit into the system, giving my natural instincts, that will take a lot of energy out of me. I had that experience when I was in charge of translation and interpretation at the World Bank, right? So that's exactly that situation where people came and said, review the data and it must fit in into the process, and you need to adjust the changes. And not my thing. So I struggled being as successful as I could be. So successful project managers deal with time. They take downtime to re-energize, as I said earlier. You will not be at your best if you're stressed out and not refreshed. So you need to make sure that you're refreshed. You will need to, oops, it's not advancing here. You will need to cut your losses when something is not working for you and realize, that's not my way of doing things. I need to change. You also need to save time by implementing your way of doing things. So when you have the ability to do the things that you do natural, where your instincts lead you, and instincts, I mean really like when you're under pressure, you have no time, what is your response? What is your immediate response? I'll give an example. When we had the terror attacks in the US on 9/11, right? So I was here, and so you had different responses. The people that would naturally get angry and wanted revenge, they went out and said, we need to find the people and bring them to justice. You had people whose natural instinct was to help. They say, what can I do? Can I donate blood or drive to New York and help clear the rubble and find victims and so on. You had others that were searching for support groups and mourn together, right? And then I'm one of those people who, when I'm under pressure, I retreat, right? So a lot of people retreat in the homes and so on. So when you're under that kind of pressure, right? So what do your instincts lead you to do? And if you manage to align that with your work, awesome. That's heaven. And then initiate necessary action to fully use your strengths. You will never run out of time. You will always be energized, and you will always be on fire and give your clients the best service that you can. So the question now is like, how do you make that work so that you can simplify your life quickly and keep your clients happy, right? So that's all good. And from now on here, you can take that advice and work on that and implement it. I think the one thing that I want you to take home is that you can I don't care how many techniques you acquire if you don't manage to use your natural instincts of working, to apply those tools and techniques and learnings, you will never get out of the situation that you're in right now. So you have two options. You can figure it out by yourself, wing it a little, it's totally fine. And that may take a long time, a longer time than you might want to, and that can be very frustrating. And what I see a lot of people, what happens then is they stop making those needed changes. And so I take money for the services that I provide, but for me it's not about the money, it's about how much change was I able to make and how much happier is a person now, right, than than there were before. And so it breaks my heart when people spend an hour with me, an hour and a half, 2 hours on those free workshops, say, okay, great, I take that home, I can do it myself. And then a few weeks later, they're back to where they were, have totally forgotten about it. You will stop making those changes. You can go and get your project management certification and so on. If you do not change that third habit, you're never going to get anywhere. You actually make your life worse, because you now added more tools and techniques and clutter to your work, actually. And that's why I'm asking. It's like, why did you show up today, right? As you mentioned to me earlier, and those are things that you confirmed, that you are busy with beating deadlines and killing fires and fixing bad work. You have long working hours, demanding clients, too many projects and complaints, and your workload and pressure is overwhelming to a point that you don't have enough time with family and friends and some of the other things that matter most to you. Yeah, you also told me that activities such as planning and strategizing, that's the quadrant number 2 conversation that we had earlier, building relationship and having meaningful conversations are important. But you also said that managing your workload has been a challenge the way you're doing it right now. And I always, like, this happens to me a lot, right? That I need to look and say, I'm stuck here, I'm not getting out of it. And therefore I have this picture on my desk here that quote by Albert Einstein, who says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you can go and acquire more tools and more techniques, and all of which I give you and I've given teams, and all of which are very, very, very helpful. But if you do not change that third habit, you cannot expect to get different results, and that's really the truth, because without guidance, you will put other people's needs before your own, right? That's what we are as project managers. So that's the number one thing the number one habit that works against us is actually also what makes us the great people that we are, right? That we put others' needs before our own, if only for an hour a day, and these become a couple of days, weeks, and eventually we lose sight of our own well-being and development as a person and professional. This company crisis that comes in, the favor that we do for a colleague whose computer just has crashed and lost files and all of that, all of which we should do. But if you have not developed that third habit, it will derail you, and whatever certification you've got anywhere else, your situation will actually become worse, because every new tool that you acquire adds more clutter to your work. So I don't want you to let that happen to you. I want you to stop that. I want you to stop that cycle that we talked earlier about, that you acquire more, you're helping out your clients, you're responding to those requests, you got more pressure, and based on that you stop planning and discussing and engaging your client, and then it gets worse and worse and worse, to a point where either you leave the company or your client disappears. Neither is good, because what happens is, even if you leave the company, and I see that a lot, it's almost like it's a bad company, there's slave drivers and so on. Usually the vast majority of people will go to another company and they're totally thrilled for the first 3 to 4 months, because they're on honeymoon, and then the same thing happens over and over again, only to leave for another company hoping that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence this time around, which never happened. It never happens. So don't let it be the same as it ever was. Make a change, because this is your time, and you cannot win time back, right? You can money back. You can win money back. You can, you can take a salary cut for a while and then make that up a few weeks or months or years later. But the time that you've invested, you cannot win back. The time that you've lost in not developing yourself and transforming your work into a meaningful environment, you cannot win back. And that's why here's option number 2, and that's what my new localization management clinic, Out-Localize, does, right? So it's a localization specific training and coaching program that gives you all the strategies, also the tools, techniques, and so on, but the strategies and the habits to turn your customers into fans and gives you life outside the office, which you need. You cannot turn your customers into fans if you do not have the time outside of the office where you can re-energize, replenish your energy, and go back on a Monday morning and be on fire again, which is when clients want you, when you're on fire. They don't want you when you're stressed out. And remember that nothing that I'm telling you and nothing that I'm offering here is theory. I've implemented for 20 years. I've fine-tuned it for 20 years on both the buyer and vendor side, and it's specifically geared to localization services and project managers. So it's not some kind of learning that is generic. It's specifically geared to help you in your day-to-day localization project work. And if you don't take my word for it, now here's Amelia Rodriguez, who is CEO of VocalLink Language Services. And I worked with her for like a few years ago, I think 8 or 9 years ago. She was actually one of my first clients. And at that time, the same project man issues that led to dissatisfied clients, high pressure on operations, very low project margins, struggling with cash flow, and so on. And within a few months, she got cash flow positive, profitable, and she now dominates that tri-state area in Ohio, where she is, with the services that she's offering. So very happy about her engagement. And after 8 years, we're still mutually supportive and friends, and that means a lot. The friendship and her success is much more valuable to me than anything else. Here's Muhammad and from Mora Translations, and she took some of my classes, and that changed her life as well. So I want that to happen to you too. And my Out-Localize program has 2 parts, right? So part 1 is where it helps you to understand the customer. We have introductions. So what is in it for you? Again, it starts really with you. It doesn't start with how to organize the work. So what's in it for you, so that you can apply all of that in a way that it works for you and is successful for your clients, your employer, and yourself. So it's a win-win-win solution. But that's how it starts. And we talked about earlier about the client hierarchy of needs and how to keep that productive and so on. We then go and deep dive into the 4 questions that I mentioned earlier in detail, how you use those 4 questions and services, also to foster that relationship with the client and to organize that work in a way that it takes away all of the clutter from you. And then the third part is the third week is how to manage test translations. So the third week is how to manage test translations, because that's the first time you put everything together on a very small scale, and you can learn and apply many of that right away, and how to build trust and communicate, and some of the mechanisms there that makes your life with your client easier, and also where you in a relatively safe environment can apply your own habits and have those first successes that you can celebrate. And then we go into implementation week, and very important here is the project health assessment, where we look at your project that you need to work on and how to make yourself better. And then the second part is, we better proof your business and your practice, by getting access to your client's boss. And that's what happens a lot, right? So you have a client on the client side, like a contact, and then that client leaves. Who's going to replace that next person? And you bite your fingernails. Like, will they come in with their own with their own people, with their own agenda, their own vendors? So will we be able to maintain that relationship? And at that point, you want to be sure that you can talk to one or two people levels up the food chain and go to that VP or senior director in your client company and say, you know what, we've worked so hard to make these things work and build a relationship. What can we do when a new person comes in to make sure that we continue to benefit from our work? And then that new person comes in and gets the direction from their manager how to work with you properly. It also helps you to get introductions to other organizations and apply what you've done there for other departments. For example, you may be in technical documentation today, and you want to also translate or localize the website tomorrow. So that's that. And in order to do that, you'll get a framework on how to have those meaningful conversations. And keep in mind, we work with you. I work with you from the very beginning on making that time, on clarifying what's in it for you, and shaping those work to your habits, so that at this time, not only you have the tools and the techniques for the meaningful conversations, but you actually have the time to do it, right? It doesn't help you if you know how to have a meaningful conversation if you cannot take an hour aside to do that. And then we go to handling complaints. And handling complaints is also here because that is the where you put everything into actions, where when you get a complaint and you use that as an opportunity to re-engage the client, apply your skills, apply the third habit, then that gives you the confidence then also to, I can do this and I can get that under control. That's after 7 weeks, And then the last week, we'll make that all work for you. You actually will do or have the opportunity to take the personal strength assessment that gives you more clarity on your work instincts, how you do best. And there are office coaching calls and some private member groups that you can also talk to peers and get some feedback from them. That's the program. And so what you will get is you'll get lifetime access to online training. So when you sign up, it's not like that after 8 weeks, it's gone. So some of you asked me beforehand, it's like, no, we are ready, but we would like it, but we're not ready yet. But what can we have something else that we need to finish first. Can we do that later? The answer is, once you're in for life. You have all the documents, the videos, the forms, and for download, so that you can watch it on the go, on the plane and the train, or anywhere you like where you don't have internet access and so on, and at any time, even after the 8 weeks program. You get the workbooks to help you, and templates and tools to get the work done. So again, all content is available offline and downloadable. It's self-paced with live coaching and office hours. You have the cheat sheets and work forms, members only private forum and group, and you can click on that buy now button and sign up on that website. So, but what I wanted to share with you before I go there, also what participants have said that went to my workshops, not to this one in particular, but some of the workshops. Here is from Capita IT, Catherine Barlow, very informative, left me with a lot of food for thought and tangible actions that I could take back to business. Workshop that was delivered. Laurie Thick, who's the founder of Lexcelera and the founder of Trendsetters Without a Border. I think she was at one of my digital marketing for LSP workshops at Localization World, and said, this is one workshop we need more of. So people that come to this workshop and participate, they usually get much more than I think they would get in a cheaper. So if you're ready to start out localizing, so probably you already want to know what's the investment. Well, the total value is about $5,000, and don't tune out here. I'm not going to ask you that. The investment that I'm asking you today is $97, and then so that would be an installment plan or a one-time payment of $970, and you can go on, click that Buy Now button and sign up. If you click that link, you will get to this page. Some of you will go directly to this page, but to the shopping cart. But you may get to this page first here, and then click on Select Options and get to this page, and you can either pull a pay in full or go on the installment plan. You can choose that here. After you click on Pay Deposit, click Add to Cart, enter your information, continue the payment, and then there you are. I'm also giving you 30-day money back guarantee, so you can go through that program for 4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks you have decided that it doesn't work. If you're not getting the results that I'm promising you, you'll get a 100% refund. And if you sign up today, I give you a fast action bonus. So if you sign up within the next 24 minutes and 40 seconds, you will also get access to my online training course on introduction on localization automation. That tells you, how you can automate processes for yourself and your clients. You'll understand what technology can do and develop your own best practice workflows and so on. So I'm hoping I can answer questions for you right now. I'm opening the floor, so use your chat box for any questions that you might have. And I would love you to be part of the Lawless community. As you see this here on the left, these are companies that I have worked with or are working with, and everything that we are doing, that you will be learning, has been shared with these companies successfully as well. So I have a question here from Daniela. It's like, how many hours a day and what are the training hours? That is a very good question. I'm sorry for not clarifying that. So we totally understand that project managers, you're always under time pressure, and I totally value your time here, right? On that you spent with me, which shows me that you are serious about developing yourself and making a change in your life. However, you can't do that every day, right? You can't spend an hour and a half, 2 hours every day for 8 weeks without stressing out any further. So the modules are, this entire program has 6 modules and 2 implementation weeks, and each module has units, and every unit is designed to fit into your lifestyle. That means, when do people, for example, check their iPads and phones or tablets the most? That's when they commute on the train or bus, before they go to bed, in bed maybe, during their breaks, and a lot of other times in between. And they typically have between 5 and 20 minutes. All of the units that you would see are between 5 and 10 minutes, or 5 minutes. Some that 20 minutes, but most of them are designed to fit into those natural breaks that you have, either either to decompress, to have a quick cup of coffee, to have lunch, you commute before you go to bed, whatsoever. There's also no falling behind, right? So we all have weeks where, there's just no bandwidth for anything else. That's fine too. Then you just do it the next week. The coaching classes are recorded. Many of the questions that you have will be answered in those calls, and so there's no falling behind. I had people that needed a year to implement, and if that's where you are in life, that's totally okay, and I totally respect that. But there is no falling behind, and it is geared. The entire program is designed in a way that that it fits into your lifestyle. Does that answer your question, Daniela? So before I'm waiting here for Daniela, any other questions? And you have another 20 minutes to make a decision and think about it, and ask more questions that you have. The other question is if you can take that in groups. Yes, you can. Thank you, Daniela. I got your yes. Thank you very much. Yes, you can do this in groups. I actually encourage you to do that in groups. And so if you are a larger group and in one location, then shoot me an email. Here's my email address, andrew@lawless.guide, and see how what we can do in order to take care of you as a group. That absolutely works. Any other questions? Give me your questions here. Remember, no questions ever dumb. You can put in whatever you like. I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to really get everything out of this conversation that you can in the less than 20 minutes that we have still available. And if it's not about the program, ask me about your specific situations and give us an example. I think I would like to know what you have done in the past to actually make a change. Is it just adding techniques and new tools and new processes? And how often have you worked on creating a space that fits you? Another question here: when will be the next seminar other than the March 1? Yes, so the 8 modules will be rolled out by week, right? So you get on March 6th, you get access to the module that has all the units for the first week, and the following week you get access to module number 2 with all the units, and then the third week you get access to module number 3 with all the units. The reason I'm doing that is because I do not want you to be overwhelmed. I do not want you to think, I have like 20 videos in front of me. How am I going to fit that in? I want you to do the step-by-steps in low doses and be able to, and that's the focus here, it's be able to, whenever you watch something, implement it the next day, like right after you watch that video, so that you have a success, so that you don't have to wait for the next client project to come around where maybe you can use all those tools and techniques that you've just learned. So it's an 8 weeks program that will be rolled out week by week, and the 4th and 8th week is implementation week, because I don't just want you to take home the learnings and then don't do anything with it. I want you to implement it and also have the opportunity in those coaching calls to get asked questions. And sometimes, we try things the very first time and it doesn't work, or it doesn't make sense to us, right? So, and that's after 3 weeks is the time to review that and make sure that you're back on track. What's the prerequisite? Is there any requirement that I need in order to benefit from it? I wish that people would take that earlier. I actually wish that I, in my career, had taken this program earlier, especially the third habit, which is, understanding my instinctive way of working, my natural way of working, finding a place for me in any employer's realm, where I can apply that with the greatest success, and organize my own work in a way that I'm always energized and never feel tired. All right. I mentioned my example with the World Bank earlier, right? So these 5 years were the hardest years in my entire career, and everybody around me said, "Are you crazy? You work for the World Bank, man? Or do you know how many people are out there that would like to have that job?" And my response was, do you know how much I'm suffering? It just drains me out. And my friends will tell you, after 5 years, I was totally drained out. My entire energy was gone. And I needed almost 9 months to recover from that experience. And what I regret the most is not the frustration that I had. It's not some of the difficulties with the environment and the struggles and so on. What I regret the most is the 5 years in my life that I've wasted, right? That I've wasted in an environment where I didn't have a chance to perform, and not because of the World Bank. They are a respectable, successful organization with brilliant staff members, one of the greatest thinkers and experts I've met, some of the best translators I've met who worked at the World Bank. It's just the entire environment was not suitable to me. And it was actually so different from the way I work that I just didn't have the opportunity to, I didn't have a chance to win. But again, I learned a lot. At the same time, I also regret the time that I've wasted. So here's a question here: what change habit you think had the biggest impact in your life? Very, 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 very good. It's like I think the biggest impact is actually that habit number 3, right? Where I used to go into situations where I was totally convinced that my way of doing it is the best way of doing it because it worked so well for me, right? So, and I couldn't see why it would not work for others, But most importantly, I also didn't understand why anybody would work differently, right? And I would surround myself with people that work the same way, only to find that if you surround yourself by people the same way and don't have that level of and don't create that diversity around themselves, you will fail, right? Because if everybody says, "Hey, let's do it, let's take some risk," and there's nobody there who cautions you, that can easily be a fatal accident experience, right? Just imagine you go on a trip together in a group, and I'm the one who says, "That's great, let's pack our bags and go in the car and go." I'm not the one who does the research before and says, what are the best hotels, the motels, because I figure we just get to the place, we find a hotel somewhere, But I'm not the one who does the research, which are the best hotel, what are the best deals out there right now, and what's the funnest route that we need to take. So I want to make sure that somebody in my team actually has that ability, and learning that was very important. And then there are teams that have skills that are different from yours, that are not complementary. They're organization that have setups that are not complementary, and then you can cut your losses and decide to make a change, either in your career, an employer, or clients. I fired clients as a result of that, and that was one of the best decisions I made. Give that example that I gave earlier with Bosch, right? So where we fired the client, and then they came back, and that gave us the opportunity to say to impose our way of working on them. So that habit, I think, if somebody had taught me that earlier, I could have easily saved 10, 12 years in my life and created those 10, 12 years more rewarding and more successfully than what I've done. So I think that was the biggest impact that any of the training that I took on my life. So here's like another, I can make a decision. I have to get authorization. Yes. So if you cannot make that decision, do send me an email right now so that I have that on my radar. I will work with you. I will work with you on that. We are filling up here, and we're coming towards the last few days. I would want you to be on it. Come back as soon as you can. Totally understand. And I also understand if you're not signing up, if that's where your situation, that's what your heart and gut tell you, totally okay. Looking forward to seeing you on one of my next free webinars. But if you want to make that change and if you understand that you need that guidance to change your habits, then do it now. Don't wait another 6 months. And I can just tell you from my own experience, it's not the money that you will regret. It's the time that you've wasted. And that's when I'm talking about my World Bank experience. And again, it's nothing against the World Bank. I think very highly of it. I continued working for them as a consultant after I'd left because that gave me the opportunity to build my own environment and so on. And I was glad and proud to support them. But inside it, the way it works inside, just not the way I was able to show my best, and it drained me out. It took all the energy away. So don't let that happen to you, and really make a change right now. So thanks for that question. If you need any help in making that financial decision, let me know. Send me an email to andrew@lawless.guide. I'll guide you through it. Ultimately, I'm really interested that you are having experienced the difference, and you, after 8 weeks, feel that you're on a much better path than you are today. And that's really what it takes. 8 weeks. You need 3 weeks to change your habits and acquire new skills. You need another 3 or 4 weeks to familiarize yourself, and then when you're in your 8th implementation week, you feel that change. It's like working out, right? You go to a gym and you don't feel the next day that you're stronger, and then suddenly 6 or 7 weeks later, you walk up the stairs and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's much easier now than it used to be. So it's the same that's happening here. If you're not working out, it's not going to happen. So if you have any other question, send me an email at andrew@lawless.guide. I'll be delighted to send you an answer and work with you and share with you whatever I can. Okay. So thank you very much for all of your interest, for your great questions, your interactions. If you haven't done so yet, click that download now button and download the slides. If you go through the slides, because some of them I really skipped over. If you browse through the slides, let me know if there's anything that you would like to know for further clarification. If you get stuck for whatever reasons in the shopping cart, which sometimes do, it doesn't happen, but it does happen. So we are at the end of it. So thank you very much. Thank you for the session. I know it was much longer than I anticipated, and you probably too. So I'm very grateful for those that stayed on until the very end. And I do hope that I will see you on or in the program. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of the week. Thank you.